This is the podcast for 10xing your income and replacing your W-2. My name is David Lecko. I'm your host, and I created a process that's helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states that turned into the software platform, DealMachine. So a lot of times, new wholesalers, my friend Nick at the gym, he came up to me and he said he wanted to try wholesaling, but he wasn't sure where he'd find a buyer. So that was preventing him from finding a deal in the first place. So I told him I'd put together this episode of all the places where he could find a buyer easily so he could alleviate that concern and start on his path to actually finding a really great deal so he could sell it and make $20,000. So my own story starts in 2018. I found a deal in Brookside neighborhood of Indianapolis. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, and I didn't know the area. So I thought $30K might be right. I met the owner. I took pictures. I said, before we put it under contract, let me go check with somebody that I trust here. And I Googled sell my house fast. Simple Wholesaling came up. And I asked via email to the owner of Simple Wholesaling from the contact form of their website, what would you actually be able to buy this property for, seeing the photos that I took? And he said $14,000. And instantly I had found a buyer and a confirmation on price. So I've put together a list of you guys, a list of 9 ways you could find a buyer. I'm going to run through the whole list, and then I'm going to break down each one. So number 1 is the foreclosure auction. Number 2 is Facebook groups. Number 3 is Googling sell my house fast, just like my story. Number 4 is go to a real estate meetup. Number 5 is the DealMachine cash buyers filter. Number 6 is post your deal on Facebook, Marketplace, Craigslist, or the MLS. Number 7 is Investorlift. 8 is hedge fund buyers. And 9 is subscribe to local wholesalers' email list and then wait a month and look up who bought the deals that they advertise. And I had a 10th on here, Open Door, but I don't think they're as good of a buyer anymore. So I'll get into that. And a hack, okay, just so you guys know, don't worry about finding a buyer until you have a deal. The best way to find a buyer is to advertise an absolutely smoking deal. And the whole purpose of this episode is to make sure you know how to find a buyer, just to alleviate that feeling, even though you really don't need to until you have a great deal. So first one, foreclosure auction. I went to a foreclosure auction in Texas where I live. Every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month, every county in Texas has an auction. So I went, it was on the west side of the courthouse building, and I just Googled for my Travis County when the foreclosure auction would be, and it's on the website. I showed up at 10 a.m. There were a lot of people that weren't wearing super nice clothes, and they brought lawn chairs, and some of them had these funny numbers in their hand, and it was not like a event. It was just like a bunch of people hanging out, and then some guy stood up and he said, all right, the auction's going to continue. This one's been on auction.com. So there's an online portion and there's an in-person portion. And if you guys want, just stick your number up and you can bid on the property. If you don't have a number, then you can't bid. And I did not have a number. It wasn't a big deal. There's a lot of people who didn't have numbers. And when I was just chit-chatting with people, I said, yeah, this is my first auction. I'm just here to check out how it works. What are you doing here? And what I realized is if they have a number, they're actually somebody who's got a lot of money. So if you want to get the most qualified buyers ever, then just go to the foreclosure auction and check it out like I did. Anyone who has a number has proven that they've brought a cashier's check, which means the actual money is tied up in that check already. It's impossible for a cashier's check to bounce enough to actually buy a whole house. You can't bid unless you've got that cashier's check. So chat with them. I met a guy named Elvis. I always thought you just have to be rich to bid on these properties, but Elvis was a young hustler. And he was talking with somebody on his AirPods during the auction. And the person he was talking to, I found out later, was his money person. So he found like a money partner, and Elvis did all the hustling and bidding, and his money partner and he were talking about the price of the house as the auction was going on. So that's, just because somebody isn't the one with the money, somebody like Elvis who's partnered up with somebody would be a great buyer as well for you. Number 2 is Facebook groups. I invest in Indianapolis, and so I Googled on Facebook, Indianapolis real estate investors, and I found a group that has 15,000 people in it called Central Indiana Real Estate Investors. And I scrolled through, there's a ton of posts that say, smoke and deal, drop your email if you want it. if you're a cash buyer. So you don't even have to post in these groups. Just look in a group like this for your city and scroll to the past posts and get those emails for yourself, and then start emailing them your deals. Number 3 is Google Sell My House Fast. That was the story I told you at the beginning when I linked up with Simple Wholesaling. Number 4 is a real estate meetup. Typically at the end of a real estate meetup, there'll be a time where people can advertise the deals that they have, and you'll see who's responding to those deals that are being advertised. And those are your cash buyers that you should chat with at the networking portion. 5 is the DealMachine cash buyers filter. So there is, when you open the map, a cash buyers filter. And if the map's on Indianapolis, it's just going to be all the cash buyers for that city. If you want to get nitty gritty with the filter, like I do, because I look for a specific type of house, I basically search, single family homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, valued at $50,000, $200,000, bought in the last year with 100% equity, which means all cash and absentee owner. So that's the whole filter that I built up there. And then I got about 400 people when I built that list. At the bottom of the map, it just says build list. 5 seconds later, the list was built. And then I clicked export, and I could export the properties or the contacts. So I clicked contacts, and then there's 4 checkboxes that say, do you want the renters, or do you want the buyer, the owners, or do you want the owner's family members? So I basically unchecked everything and just checked the actual owner of the property. So then I got their name, their email, and their phone number exported. I signed up for a platform for managing emails called ActiveCampaign. It lets me send emails in bulk. Because from a personal email address, you could actually send, in the BCC column, I think like 30 or 100. Like there's a max of how many emails you can send. So I wanted to upload this full list of 400. I did about almost 100 bounced, but then I phrased my email like this. So I would get responses. And so I got a response from many people from this email. This is what it said. It said, hi, so-and-so. I'm a fellow local property owner in Indianapolis. Currently, I've got more deals coming through than I anticipate having money for to fix myself. This is my buying criteria. I look for 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses with the ARV at $160,000. I'm typically getting I'm 80% all in, so 20% discount, and then it rents for about $1,600 a month, which is the 1% rule. Is this similar to your buying criteria? If so, would you like me to send any of these opportunities that I have? And then I put, thanks, David. P.S. I found you by using the DealMachine app for properties bought in 2023 that were like this. And I saw that you had bought one. And so, yeah, they can reply yes, which builds your email reputation, which is important in these bulk mailing, emailing platforms. So that's a great way to build your buyers list. Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom. And now moving on to number 6, post your deal on Craigslist if you have a deal, or Facebook Marketplace, or the MLS. Now, I haven't done the MLS one, but there is a thing called a novation, which is like wholesaling, but typically if you're wholesaling, you can't list on the MLS, but a novation allows you to control the property without having bought it yet, and then you can post it on the MLS, which is the biggest, pool of buyers out there. Number 7 is a platform called Investorlift. So as far as I know, that's how it works. The biggest wholesalers in the country, they put their buyers lists all together, and by subscribing to Investorlift, you can send an email through the platform to them. Now, it's very expensive, though. I think it's like $3,000 a month, and you got to commit for 12 months. So unless you're already doing like 12 deals a year, I would hold off on that. But that could be a good option for you if you want to build your buyers list exponentially and really try to push the price on every single deal that you sell, right? That's why you could justify the $3,000 a month cost, is if it allows you to sell it for $3,000 more every month. So it seems like a very valuable proposition, but not one if you haven't done 10 deals yet. There's plenty of easy ways to find, great buyers on your first few deals, so you can stay positive and not sunk in cash number 8 is exactly what I'm talking about. It's these hedge fund buyers. So hedge fund buyers are just what they sound like, although it sounds like these weird entities that you'd never run into day to day, but they actually have websites and they tell you where they operate and where they buy deals from. So the first, these are all the hedge funds. So I'm going to give you a breakdown. So the way I found these and did my hedge fund research was I'm a member of a mastermind for the nation's biggest flippers and wholesalers. It's called Collective Genius. It costs $30,000 a year. You have to be doing 100 deals or more to even be in the group. And there's a Facebook post in the group that said, what hedge funds are y'all selling to? So that's where I got this from. So that's where the big dogs are selling deals. The first one is SFR3. So it's SFR3.com. They operate in the South and the Midwest. They buy 200 homes per month. And specifically, they are in the following states: Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So they can close within 7 days. The next one is CONREX. And I Googled sell your house to CONREX and I found their website. The next one was more popular. It's called Vinebrook, and they currently operate in 24 cities. And I will read to you the cities. So Atlanta, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, Charleston, South Carolina, Cincinnati, Ohio, Columbia, I believe that is South Carolina. But if you're in a Columbia city and you're not sure, go check out their website. Columbus, Dayton, Greenville, Huntsville, Indianapolis, Jackson, Mississippi, Kansas City, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Montgomery, Alabama, Omaha, Pensacola, Pittsburgh, Portales, Rayford, St. Louis, and the Triad region. And so the next one was also very popular, Wedgewood. They actually operate in 20 states. And so I'm going to read to you the states. They're in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and Hawaii. So check that out. Another one that was popular was called Open House, and I had trouble finding them at first, but I'm confident I found them at openhouse-us.com. Open House Group is a publicly traded company and the largest single-family home developer in Tokyo, Japan, actually. They decided to expand and decided the U.S. was the right place to do that. And they're currently operating in California, Texas, and Georgia. And the last hedge fund buyer that I have from my research is Tiber Capital, Tiber. They've done a whopping 18,750 single-family home acquisitions, and they operate in the following states: Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, and Colorado. So number 9, that wraps up the hedge fund buyers, by the way. So these guys are doing so much volume, you can count on them to be able to offer it if it's a good deal. And that's the best thing you could offer when you're just starting out. So alleviate that concern of not knowing where your buyer's going to come from. The number 9 option is to subscribe to a local wholesaler's email list, wait a month, and then look up who bought the deals that they advertised. I'd recommend creating a separate Gmail account when you sign up for all these wholesalers' emails lists. The way you can find these wholesalers is to Google discount off-market properties in whatever city you're in, and then sign up. They've got forms on most of their websites where you can enter your email and sign up for deals. If they ask for your criteria, just give them what I said. You know, if you're just trying to come up with something earlier in the episode. And then again, look for the actual deals that they advertise, and then look up who bought the deals either on the county or in DealMachine. And number 10 was Opendoor used to be a great buyer, but now I've heard anecdotally that you actually have to own the property for a certain amount of time before they'll consider buying the property. So there may be some ways around it, but as a new wholesaler, I just probably wouldn't count on Opendoor. Just a reminder as a hack when you're getting started, I know you got this feeling like, I'm not sure who I'll sell it to if I find a great deal. Like, where am I going to get this big finder's fee from? You don't have to actually find a buyer until you have a deal, because the best way to find a buyer is to advertise an absolutely smoking deal. So I hope this did alleviate that concern. And Nick, if you're out there listening from our conversation in the gym, Thank you for inspiring me to do this episode, and we're rooting for you to get your first wholesale deal. If you guys want more listening on buyers, we had a very popular episode, number 77, called 2X Your Income by Qualifying Your Buyers. And if you want to set out and look for your first deals, check out episode 65, Get Your First Deal in 7 Days. Little creation I made from the 7-day challenge that DealMachine likes to run and has a lot of success with. Hope you guys like this episode. Let me know if I alleviated that feeling for you. Message me on Instagram at dlecko or in the Spotify comments section of the podcast. Would love to connect with you there. If you like this and you want more frameworks like this, subscribe. We've got some killer frameworks coming. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.